Hello everyone, welcome to this NMUN DC Rules training. My name is Adam Wolf and I am the Undersecretary General with NMUN DC 2020. I am joined here today by my colleagues Courtney Indert and Emma Ogg. And what we're going to do is we're going to be providing you with a short segment that will help you become more familiar with the short form of rules that we have and how you can apply them in your committee sessions. So what is the short form of rules first and foremost? So the short form of rules contains the points and motions you'll be using throughout the entire conference, and they're very important to ensuring a proper flow of committee. So how we'll be going through this training is we'll be giving a very brief run through on how these rules will function in committee itself and give you an idea of how they are usually applied. So I will begin our segment by reviewing some of the more common points and motions you will use, and also to get an idea of how they're practically applied in your first committee session. So with that being said, I'm going to take you kind of a bit of a journey right now. So say you are now virtually at the conference and you're with your colleagues. It is the first night and you have been conversing with various other delegates in other countries that you're just met, and you're looking to get an understanding of the topic, and that's very normal. That very much happens on the first night of the committee. And you'll all sit down. The chair calls to session, the first committee session. And when you all sit down, what will commonly happen is there'll be an introduction, etc. Then a speakers list will be opened. And on the speakers list, various countries can be brought on to speak on the speakers list. So usually what will happen is you'll go through some countries who will speak, usually indicating how they feel about a certain topic or issue. And from there, the chair will ask for points or motions. Now, this is where we get to the rules form that you see in front of you here. So there's two very common motions that you'll see on your first night, especially when trying to establish what topic you want to discuss. The first you'll probably see is the adoption of the agenda, seen at the very low end of the form right here. So to motion to adopt the agenda is meant to, as self-explanatory, adopt the agenda. What you usually want to do is you want to use this motion, say I am the Republic of the the Republic of Austria, and I would say I, the Republic of Austria, wish to motion to set the topic order to topic 1, then topic 2. Vice versa, you can also motion to set the topic 2 to topic 1, depending on the number of topics you have. So it's simply just to motion the topic order you wish to see brought to the floor. Now, say you put that motion out there. There's a motion to set the adoption of the agenda. Then you can also do other motions. Say that we get a motion to have a suspension of the meeting. So there's a motion to suspend the meeting for 15 minutes because we want to talk about the topic a little bit more. There's a little uncertainty still, and that's very common as well. So we have both of those motions on the floor, and then someone else motions, say we would need to have a suspension of the meeting for 30 minutes. So at that point, then and there, you have a motion to adopt the agenda, and then a motion to suspend the meeting for 15 minutes, and then a motion to suspend the meeting for 30 minutes. Now, this is going to be an important distinction because what I'm going to talk about is order of precedence versus order of which they were received. So precedence is basically the importance in a motion will take in this. So precedence means the higher up the list it is, means that one will be entertained first. The lower on the list it is, that one will be entertained last before the other ones that are on top of the list. So in this instance, we have two motions to suspend the meeting. Those will be entertained before the adoption of the agenda because those have higher precedence. Now, obviously, suspension of the meeting, they're the same motion. What happens then, since they're the exact same precedence? What happens in this instance then is the order which they were received. So we have a motion for 15 minutes. That one will be taken before the motion for 30 minutes simply because it was put before that one. And say that motion passes, and there's a 15-minute suspension of the meeting, that motion will then be accepted. Then the motion for 30 minutes will simply disappear because it is assumed that once that motion for 15 minutes suspension of the meeting passes, any other motion that is a motion to suspend the meeting assumes that the body simply did not want to do that. 15 minutes is adequate. We don't need 30 minutes, etc. So I bet you're asking, what happens to the adoption of the agenda? Well, the adoption of the agenda will wait. You'll have your 15-minute break, and when you get back, that motion to adopt the agenda will be entertained right then and there. So say you have the motion to adopt the agenda, it passes, congratulations. Say it was a motion to set the topic to 1-2, passes, your topic is now 1-2. Just as a note, if the motion fails, you still have opportunity to start the rest of that first committee session to set a topic order. However, as a word of warning, if any committee fails to set a topic order their first night, it'll default in the order of which is in the background guide. So if it's you have just 2 topics, the topic order will be set to topic 1, then topic 2, in the order of which it was presented in the background guide. So bear that in mind. That will happen if you do not set the topic order on the first night. So that's essentially a good idea of the flow that you'll have, because once you set the topic order, then you'll go through another speakers list, you'll have more suspensions in the meeting, and then you'll be working towards your working papers. Hopefully they'll become draft resolutions in due time. So with that out of the way, you'll notice near the top of your sheet, there are 2 specific points that we'll be discussing, and these are points of order and appeal to chair. So first and foremost, points of order. What are points of order? Well, points of order are essentially a point that can be raised by a delegation at any time during the conference, specifically on discussion of any matter. And what they're used to do is to exclusively correct any error in procedure made by the dais. This can be a variety of things, but most commonly we often see it used to say the dais accidentally skips a country on the speakers list. So if the Kingdom of Belgium was supposed to speak next and they're accidentally skipped, a point of order would be a very proper point to raise that in there, just to ensure that, then make the dais aware that, oh, the Kingdom of Belgium was supposed to speak next, and more often than not we see, oh yes, you are correct, delegate, Kingdom of Belgium, please speak. So I bet you're wondering now, what's appeal the chair? So a motion to appeal the chair is specifically in relation to points of order, and if you need more specifics, it's under Rule 24 of the long form of the rules. But appeal the chair is essentially if the chair decides to rule against any point of order at all. So say that in this instance they decide, sorry, no, we don't have the Kingdom of Belgium on the speakers list. We'll proceed as we previously specified. Any delegation then can decide that we would like to appeal the decision of that chair and allow the Kingdom of Belgium to speak. So that would be an appropriate instance of it. As just a word of caution, we don't really see appeal the decision of the chair too often at NMUN. But if you need a specific example, that's something where you may see it applied. But again, we encourage you to use these motions appropriately. At no point should these motions be used to interrupt a speaker. Within the rules, you are supposed to only use them when a speaker is done, just to ensure that it doesn't interrupt the committee flow. And they're not meant to disrupt committee at all. So you're not allowed to use points of order or appeal the chair in a way that would be disruptive to the committee or interrupt the committee flow. That is it for my segment, and I'll turn it over to my colleague, Courtney.
Next, we are going to be talking about closing the speakers list. This will likely come up in the next logical order in that you are ready to move into voting procedure soon, maybe not quite yet, but soon, and you would like to go ahead and close the speakers list so that no more speakers can be added. It is a simple majority with no debate, so a very simple procedural vote. And it's just really important to emphasize that once the list is completely exhausted, you go straight into voting procedure. So this should be used when you know you are going near and almost ready for it. Next, we'll talk about reopening the speakers list. And simple as that, it opens a closed list. So let's say you don't have, you need more time. So you can do this and it allows more speakers to be added. Once again, no debate and a simple majority. The adjournment of debate is likely the one that confuses most people. So it's important to note it ends debate without a substantive vote. So that means you completely put the topic to the side and you don't get to vote on any of the work of the body. It does require debate. So you do need 2 in favor and 2 against to speak for about, I believe it is 30 seconds or less. And it's a simple majority vote. And it requires a roll call. In this year, with it being on virtual online, we will not be doing the roll call vote. So in our case, it would just be a simple majority. in the adjournment of the debate is a pretty disruptive measure in the rules of procedure, and commonly used when the agenda is no longer the first agenda item is no longer relevant or of interest to the body. The next one we will talk about is closure of debate. You vote on all draft resolutions that you have once you've closed debate, and you move to an immediate vote. So once you close debate, you need two people to speak against why we shouldn't close the debate, and a 2/3 majority. And this just means that we end all of the discussions, all of the any working papers that are on the floor that are not draft resolutions are not considered, and only those that have been draft resolutions that have been accepted by the dais will be considered after the closure of debate. And then you move straight into the substantive vote to vote on the work of the body. And lastly, I'll talk about reconsideration. Reconsideration is only used after members of the body have voted in favor of adjournment of debate. So first off, there has to have been a motion to adjourn the debate, and then it has to be then finally adjourned, and then you can reopen the debate on that previous agenda item, or reconsider it in this motion. It requires 2 against, and then a 2/3 majority vote. And so remember, again, this reopens the debate on a topic that was previously ended by adjournment.
Hello, this is Emma Ogg. I'm the third Undersecretary General that you're going to be hearing from during this training. And I'm going to be going through the motions used during voting block. And those are the motions on your short form rules that have the little asterisk next to them. So although point of order and appeal of the chair are used throughout the conference, they are still used during voting procedure. And we'll be going through the rest of those motions in the order of precedence. So beginning with division of the question. This is really to pull out different operative clauses separate from the rest of the draft resolution to create an annex, and it's really used to highlight those clauses. The most famous example of this in the real UN is the Sustainable Development Goals. So it really is to highlight something. It's not used to pull out or delete clauses out of a resolution. If you wanted to do that, you could, but you would do it through an amendment process and not through this particular motion. So division of the question does have 2 parts, and the first part is a procedural vote, which is just should the motion to pull these clauses out be considered. It requires 2 speakers in favor and 2 against, and a majority to pass. If it passes, the clauses are removed and voted on separately, and if it does not pass, there's just no changes, so the clauses are not pulled out. The second part is the substantive vote, so if the procedural vote does pass, you would then proceed to vote on the clauses separately. This doesn't require any speakers for and against. And if it passes, the annex passes, meaning that the clauses have successfully been turned into an annex to highlight them. And if it fails, the clauses are discarded. But since this really is used to highlight clauses, usually if that first procedural part passes, we would expect that second part to pass as well. The next one is roll call vote. This is included because during normal conferences, this is a motion that we would entertain during voting procedure. However, with our new online format, we do not have a use for this anymore. You'll be voting through our new nifty online voting system, and we will automatically be able to tell which delegation voted which way, and so there's really no need for a roll call vote in this year's setup being an online conference. And finally, we also have adopt by acclamation. This is a very common motion to see at NMUN conferences. And this is to adopt a draft resolution as a body by consensus, meaning that there is no vote on it. So once motioned, The chair is going to ask if there are any dissensions. And if there are not, then that means that the motion to adopt by acclamation has passed and that the draft resolution is adopted as a resolution. This is commonly used, as stated before, because most actual UN resolutions are adopted unanimously, and this is how we do that here at NMUN. So I hope you have found this training to be helpful, and best of luck to you at the conference. Thank you so much.